The first time most people truly noticed Haaland, it was not because of words, celebrations, or controversy, but because of inevitability. The ball moved toward the goal, defenders reacted a fraction too late, and the outcome felt decided before it actually happened. That sense of certainty has followed Haaland throughout his career and is a major reason why his story continues to command global attention. This documentary explores the life, rise, and current moment of Haaland, examining how his background shaped him, how his career developed, and why he is once again at the center of worldwide discussion right now. This is a story about development rather than mystery, about structure rather than chaos. From early childhood to the present day, Haaland has been part of a carefully evolving football journey that blends natural ability with systematic training, professional environments, and relentless consistency. Understanding this path helps explain not only his achievements, but also the reasons behind the intense attention he receives in the current moment. Haaland was born into an environment where professional football was familiar rather than distant. From an early age, he was exposed to the routines, discipline, and expectations of elite-level sport. This background did not guarantee success, but it removed many of the unknowns that young athletes often face. Football was not an abstract dream, it was a structured reality. Training grounds, schedules, physical preparation, and performance analysis were normal elements of life rather than intimidating obstacles. As a child, Haaland displayed strong physical coordination and an unusual comfort with competitive pressure. He participated in multiple sports during his early years, which contributed to overall athletic development rather than early specialization alone. This multi-sport exposure helped build balance, strength, and spatial awareness, qualities that later became visible in his professional performances. Education and football progressed side by side, with no immediate rush toward fame, but a gradual movement through organized youth systems. His early football education focused heavily on fundamentals. Coaches emphasized positioning, timing, and decision-making rather than individual flair. This approach suited Haaland's natural tendencies. He was not defined by constant ball touches or elaborate dribbling sequences, but by movement efficiency and outcome-focused play. Even at youth level, his game revolved around understanding space and exploiting it decisively. The beginning of Haaland's professional career followed a steady, methodical pattern. He entered senior football through structured pathways rather than sudden promotion. Early appearances were marked with limited minutes and controlled exposure, allowing adaptation to the physical and tactical demands of professional competition. During this phase, his performances were not widely discussed outside specialist circles, but internal evaluations consistently highlighted his finishing ability and positional discipline. Recognition grew as opportunities increased. With regular playing time, Haaland's output began to align with his underlying attributes. Goals arrived frequently, but more importantly, they arrived predictably. Analysts noted that his scoring patterns were repeatable rather than accidental. He was not relying on rare moments of brilliance, but on consistent execution of high-probability actions. This reliability became a defining feature of his reputation. As Haaland moved to higher levels of competition, visibility expanded rapidly. Matches were no longer viewed only by local audiences, but by international broadcasters and online platforms. Statistical comparisons emerged, placing his goal output alongside historical benchmarks. While such comparisons often lack full context, they contributed to growing interest. Media narratives formed around efficiency, physical dominance, and tactical simplicity, reinforcing a clear public image. Major achievements followed as a natural extension of this progression. League performances translated into continental competitions, where Haaland demonstrated the same patterns against stronger opposition. His contributions were measured not only in goals, but in how defenses adapted specifically to account for him. Teams altered defensive structures, assigned additional markers, and adjusted pressing lines, indicating his influence beyond raw numbers. However, his career has not been without challenges. Injuries periodically interrupted momentum, raising questions about long-term durability. These interruptions sparked debate about workload management and physical sustainability. During these periods, attention shifted from performance to availability, highlighting how expectations had risen. Even brief absences generated widespread discussion, demonstrating how central Haaland had become to team structures and competitive planning. Criticism has appeared in more subtle forms. Some observers questioned stylistic limitations, arguing that his role within attacking systems was narrow. Others suggested that his effectiveness was dependent on team quality. These discussions, while persistent, remained largely analytical rather than personal, reflecting the professional framing of his public image. Haaland himself remained largely absent from media controversies, focused on performance rather than commentary. The current surge in attention surrounding Haaland is driven by a specific convergence of timing, performance, and context. The trend began following a recent sequence of high-profile matches in which his output directly influenced outcomes at the highest competitive level. These performances were not isolated events, but part of a sustained run that aligned with decisive moments in the season. Goals arrived in matches that carried direct consequences for titles, qualifications, and historical records. What makes this trend particularly significant is not just the number of goals, but the manner in which they occurred. Analysts observed patterns repeating across different opponents and tactical setups. The same movements, the same timing, and the same finishing techniques appeared consistently. This reinforced the perception that Haaland operates within a highly optimized personal system, one that functions regardless of external variables. The trend accelerated through digital platforms where short clips circulated widely. These clips often focused on minimal touches leading to maximum impact. In an era dominated by highlight culture, such efficiency stood out. Rather than extended sequences, audiences were drawn to moments of inevitability where the outcome felt predetermined. Media outlets amplified these moments through analysis segments, statistical breakdowns, and comparative graphics. Another factor contributing to the trend is the broader competitive landscape. Current discussions around generational transitions in football have created a heightened focus on players positioned as defining figures of the era. Haaland's age, output, and consistency place him directly within this narrative. As other established figures move into later career stages, attention naturally concentrates on those shaping the present and immediate future. The timing of this trend also matters. It emerged during a period of intense fixture congestion and increased scrutiny of player performance under physical stress. Haaland's ability to maintain output under these conditions fueled debates about conditioning, sports science, and training methodologies. His performances became reference points in broader conversations about modern football demands. This trend matters within the larger context of Haaland's career because it represents a shift from potential fulfillment to sustained dominance. Earlier phases focused on projection and development. The current phase centers on confirmation. Discussions are no longer about what he might become, but how long current levels can be maintained and what historical benchmarks may be approached. Public reaction has been largely analytical rather than emotional. Fans discuss patterns, numbers, and tactical implications. Media coverage emphasizes structural impact rather than personality. This reflects how Haaland is perceived, less as a narrative-driven figure and more as a performance-driven one. His presence influences how matches are prepared, played, and analyzed. At present, Haaland occupies a position of stability within uncertainty. Football environments change rapidly, yet his role remains clearly defined. Looking ahead, future possibilities depend on health management, tactical evolution, and competitive context. Adjustments will likely occur, but the core attributes that define his game are unlikely to disappear. In the long term, Haaland's legacy will be shaped by accumulation rather than singular moments. Records, consistency across seasons, and adaptability to evolving systems will determine historical standing. His impact lies in redefining expectations around efficiency and specialization in modern attacking roles. This is the story of a player whose influence is measured in outcomes rather than expression, whose relevance grows through repetition rather than surprise. As discussions continue and performances unfold,